Hello, and welcome to episode 6 of Difficulty Settings. Difficulty Settings is an interview-style show where we talk a little bit about what it's like to have a disability and how that affects different aspects of my life. Along the way, I hope that you learn a little bit more about me, and I hope that you learn a little bit more about yourselves along the way. So thank you so much for watching. My name is Sarah von Gertzen. I'm 27 years old. I live in Edmonton, Alberta, and I'm a filmmaker. So I have a couple different things. So when I got sick in 2011, I got some migraines with that, and a whole bunch of different symptoms came with it. So some dizziness and some visual disturbances. But more recently, I've been having a lot of joint pain, specifically like lower back pain, hip pain, some automatic nervous system issues, so like some sweating when I shouldn't be sweating, heart palpitations, and things like that, and a whole bunch of like changes in my spine. So yeah, a couple different things, but the more recent stuff, we're trying to find what's been causing all of them. So it's been on a huge medical journey for it. Today, I'm not feeling too great. I'm a little bit tired, and I'm starting to have a little bit of pain because I feel like I've been sitting for a little too long. Regarding the last interview that I had about how I interact with the public or the other Edmonton community members, I feel like a little bit nervous about it, but I also... I'm nervous in the way of like, I feel like an imposter, and I feel like what I was saying wasn't like smart enough, or it didn't have any real value or anything. But I know that that's not the case, because I was actually very surprised about how much I had to say about it. I probably could have talked a lot more into greater detail about it, because I didn't realize how much of an important issue it was for me, and how I did feel very comfortable talking about how I struggle talking in public to people, and how I best accommodate that. I did not realize like that I felt that comfortable talking about it. It was very surprising to me, because going into that interview, I felt like really like super nervous that I wouldn't have anything to say. But I did, and I feel very good about my answers. So this is episode 6 of Difficulty Settings, and it's a little bit of a special one, and I thought we would take some time to talk a little bit about the past episode, so a little bit of a retrospective or a look back. And we'll be talking a little bit more about how I felt about the series and what I want to do with it, and kind of like my favorite kind of moments in it. I definitely had a lot of anxiety when starting this show. The interviews, like, we had developed the interview kind of like segments, and I split them into like what I thought was important, and things that I wanted to cover and talk about. But when we were like getting closer to each interview, I started getting like a lot of anxiety around it, because like I felt like I wouldn't have enough to say. And then it was kind of like the opposite, where I almost had too much to say. And then when we edited the show together into the final episodes as they are now, it definitely felt like, and then I got a whole new set of like anxiety of being like, oh, did I put the right things in? Did I not include something? Did I do something like wrong? And feeling like the subject matter, like it made sense. Like I struggled a lot with that. I struggled a lot with like feeling like, is what I'm saying making sense? Is it adding to what I want to say? And am I too anxious to talk about this? Or how do I manage that anxiety to talk about it? Like that kind of stuff. That was very like a huge personal journey for me to overcome, and to also find what accommodations I need for like the new pains I've been having and the new struggles that I've been working with. The experience was different than that like anxious experience that I thought, because had so much to say, and I could tell I was like very passionate about it. Like that was like the main thing I think was the difference. Is I had a lot of passion, and I tried to answer as true to myself as I did. Um, and yeah, I think I'm happy with the overall end product. I really felt like going into this whole project, I was like, oh, when we broke down and did the development of the project, I was worried that I wouldn't have like a lot to say on each of the topics, but we ended up having like more than we could possibly fit into each of the episodes. And I was very pleasantly surprised, and I was really happy to know like I was so passionate about all of the topics, and we really did a great job like developing the series in the beginning and writing the questions, and kind of like making it feel like an open conversation. And it can sometimes be hard because with shows like this, it's like I'm interviewing myself. So I wanted to make it based on my experiences and my lived experience, and I wanted to have that as like the jump off point for people to relate to and learn from. And it was a little bit challenging to I was worried it would be like challenging to present that in that way, of like present it in a way that it's not just me answering like yes or no questions. But I was so pleasantly surprised on how it was like easy for me to look in my past and pull out experiences that I could share on camera. To prepare for the production days, it was a little bit of a challenge because I've been in so much pain, so a lot of the interviews were spaced out, and I had to take a lot of time in between to prepare. So a lot of it was getting the date set in advance, getting all the gear that we needed, and making sure that the set was like kind of set up. And I had a lot of the crew come to me and film it at my own home, and just so it was like there wasn't as many like variables as going into like a studio or a space I didn't know. A lot of it involved me doing a lot of stretching and taking it easy the night before, trying to get as best of a sleep as I possibly could, because it was like a lot of sitting. But yeah, it was a lot of like pre-planning and making sure what I was wearing was like out and ready. So it was kind of like I would sit down and we would start right away. It wasn't like sitting down and then adjusting. It was kind of like we found what we liked, the look of the show, and that's kind of like what we went with almost for every episode. And yeah, that's how usually I would prepare for it. Is I would have everything ready in advance, and all I had to do was sit down and answer questions. It's a little bit weird to be in the interview because I have a lot of anxiety about the questions, and not the questions per se, but more my answers of them. So I would have like a lot of anxiety of like, is what I'm saying okay? Do I sound stupid? Like a lot of that negative anxiety twirling around in my head. So sometimes when I'm talking, I like feel like I'm rambling on and on and on into a sentence, and that it's not making any sense, or it's like very unclear, or it's not what I actually want to say. It's like it's rambling into something else, and I do that. I know I do, but I feel like in the interview it can feel like a lot worse, like being in your own head, and all of this stuff is like going at once. So I know what I want to say, and I'm actively saying it, but it's hard to combat that anxiety. I probably would say I felt the most confident when talking about my interactions with the public and the Edmonton community. I felt like I wasn't going to have a lot to say on those answers, but I really did have a lot to say. And I was very confident with myself when I was answering those questions. And I ended up like talking, only like scratching the surface on the things that I wanted to talk about. And I was very like pleasantly surprised. I really enjoyed that interview session. I think I felt the most vulnerable probably in the first episode. And if I were to redo that now, it would probably have a different type of confidence that I do. Like I don't feel nearly as like anxious filming this episode as I did that one. I was really like scared that what I was saying wasn't good enough and all these other things, and I wasn't fully like aware of that I could take breaks, and I was trying to push myself. And yeah, I definitely felt like the most vulnerable on episode 1. The question I remember most, I think, looking back on, is probably in the career episode. There was a question that was where I kind of talked about my experience in the film industry and kind of what I would want people in the film community to like remember. I think that was like a very important question for me. I always kind of like in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking, how can these events or how can this set be more accommodating? How, not even just for myself, but if another person was here, like what would, how would I set it up and how would I best accommodate people? And I think that's such like a passionate question for me, and it's so close to my heart. And I have such strong feelings on it that I think that's the question that I remember. I think when I was making this, with this series, I was hoping that at the end of it, I could use it as like an open conversation, like starting point. I definitely want to use this as like as a template for other productions. I learned a lot about my abilities and what accommodations I need right now. And this is definitely like the bookmark thing of like going forward. I know what I need to make something successfully. I think the person I'm most excited to share this project with is probably my family and friends, like first and foremost. I know they're very excited for it, but the other person I'm really excited to get the reaction from is my my psychologist. I think he's gonna be like really happy. There's like a couple times in the series where I definitely say where it's like, it's not impossible, it's just very hard. And I correct myself, which is something that I know he does in our sessions. So I am very excited to show him. I think he's gonna be super proud of like how my anxiety looks on episode 1 and how not anxious I am here. I think with any project that I make, like whether it's a painting or a doll or a film, I'm always nervous to kind of just like put it out there, and that comes from having like social anxiety. So it's like hard to say who I'm the most nervous about, but I think it's just like the idea of like a general public seeing it and not liking it or not understanding it or thinking I'm faking it or you know, saying that my opinions are wrong or my experiences are wrong. I think like that's the most thing, is just like the kind of like the faceless negative person that's gonna watch it. I think that's the most person I'm nervous about. After this production, I want to move forward with my career in film and television, and I want to stay in Edmonton and kind of like create productions until I get kind of like big enough to start hiring people, like a lot of like a large crew, and I want to make sure that there's roles that are open to disabled people, and even in like mentee and mentor relationships, I think that's very important to learn from other people. And I know I would absolutely love being on set and seeing somebody else who has like disabilities or like chronic pain also like managing it and being able to talk to them about it. And I never had that when I was starting out. So I definitely want to be able to like provide that to the Edmonton community. I think that that's definitely what I want to do. I think it's important to be open and honest about what I'm feeling and how disability affects my life. And so I definitely don't want to stop talking about it in a way of whether that's through like documentary and meeting other disabled people and learning more about them and their stories, or if it's exploring something else or another aspect in my life. I think that's important. But yeah, I definitely want to continue working with some sort of goal to helping the disabled community. I say it over the course of a lot of episodes in this series where I talk about how people should be going at their own pace and they should do what's right for them and they should listen to their bodies. And I think that those are important messages. It doesn't matter how long it takes you and it doesn't matter what you need. People deserve to be accommodated and you will meet your success. You just have to keep moving forward and keep trying and trying different things. And it's so much easier said than done, even on my end of things, where I can sit here and say that, and I know that's the most important thing. But I could wake up tomorrow and be in a lot of pain and feel like I'll never make another film again because it's been so hard. But there's good days and bad days. But I think the key is to keep moving forward. In the future, if I were to look back on this program, I feel like the most memorable part for me would be, I feel like in a couple years' time looking back, I'll kind of feel like I'll laugh looking back at this, feeling like that I'm so overwhelmed with my pain issues, especially because I fluctuate day to day, and I feel so kind of like I just have dread for the future of like, is this how it's gonna be every day? Am I gonna struggle this hard? Are new things gonna happen all the time? Am I never gonna be able to manage this? And I definitely felt like that back in 2011 when I first started getting like migraines every day. I felt like it would never get any better. So I think that experience of like documenting my experience during this time is such a unique one because I'm going through that from before. I really set out to developing a project that I was passionate about and it coming out exactly as how I wanted, if not better. I was very open with what I wanted to talk about and the topics, and they all really were great episodes. I really had fun interviewing and seeing them grow into like something of their own and creating like this little project. And I'm very, very passionate about it, and I'm very happy that I have these experiences to help me move on and go and make other projects. I think I feel so very, very, very grateful to be able to have made something that I'm super proud of, that was so personal, and I was very passionate about it. And to have the opportunity to talk a little bit about it and be able to create it the way that I wanted to create it, with all the accommodations that I would absolutely need, I think was so valuable to me. And I just really am grateful to anybody who tuned in to the episodes, even just one episode. It means incredibly a lot to me to be able to talk about these issues and talk about the things that I'm feeling about all of these different aspects in my life. And I am just so incredibly grateful of the opportunity. Absolutely. I can't say it enough. And I really hope that people learned a little bit about themselves, along with learning and hearing about my experiences. I think that I definitely hear stories and experiences from other people, and I learn very well from those. That's something that I absolutely do in my personal life. And I hope that I was able to provide that even just a little bit to somebody else who has disabilities, or somebody else who has a family member with disabilities, or somebody who is just like very interested in the Edmonton community, because it's so important, I think, to be open and honest, and it means so much that I hopefully could provide at least one person some little bit of comfort that they're not going through it alone, and that there's other people who are frustrated when they're frustrated, and who are happy when they're happy with like small successes, and who are finding ways to accommodate themselves, and who are gaining confidence and being anxious and still doing what they want to do. I hope that I provided that to at least one person. I want to take this opportunity to say a very heartfelt thank you for joining me along this journey of exploring a little bit more of what it's like to have a disability, and how these different aspects of my life are affected by it, and how I've managed it and learned to adapt, and how I've learned to accommodate myself, and all these different aspects of I never really sat down and thought of all in one piece. It was a very eye-opening experience, and I hope that you learned not only a little bit about myself as a filmmaker, but also a lot about yourselves, or kind of like as a community, like what we can do to help disabled people, and kind of just being more aware of what people need, and what people need to succeed. And I think that's the important thing, is we should be focusing on lifting community members up, and making it easier for them to get where they want to go. It was a very like anxiety producing experience, so I definitely wanted to make sure I made note of that in my head, and understand that I still have things to work on, and I have things that aren't working, and when I figure out what's causing all of these symptoms in me, and if I get a diagnosis of a different kind of health issue, it's going to be a whole nother situation of learning and accommodating in a whole different way. So yeah, I definitely wanted to take the opportunity to say thank you for coming on this journey with me. It was going to be such a memorable experience for me, and I'll definitely look back as at it as a positive one. And I think I would absolutely love to continue kind of an explorative series about people with disability, and kind of how different people adapt in their lives. And yeah, I definitely hope that you enjoyed watching it and gained some insight, and hopefully I wasn't like too anxious and I didn't make any sense at all, even though that's like just anxiety right now. But yes, I wanted to say thank you very much for coming with me on this journey, and thank you so much for watching these past 6 episodes of Difficulty Settings.